We're going to hop into what I think is, this for me is a Bible study that when I did it 10 years ago, it cemented the fact that I was not going to go back to my old life. I, up to doing this Bible study, understood what I need to do, and that was follow Christ. I understood even how I needed to do that, which is at that point I had faith, but I needed to repent. And I needed to be baptized, but this is a Bible study that helped me actually have a legitimate reason why. And oftentimes what we do is we do a great job at teaching people what they need to do and how they need to do it. But this is a Bible study that's got to give people a real reason why. Yeah. It's been said that a man who has a strong enough why can tolerate almost any what or how. Yeah. What does that mean? For those of you guys who are parents or you have a spouse, you have a responsibility. Right. And it doesn't really matter what you need to do in order to put food on the plates of your children. Yeah. You're just going to make it happen. Yeah. You're going to work crazy hours. You're going to work a job you don't want to work because your why is strong.
Yeah.
If you have a strong enough why, the what and the how are naturally going to come.
Yeah.
And in the same way, our why in following Jesus is just as important as the what and the how. And what I've realized is the majority of people, they follow Jesus for one of four reasons. Generally what I do is, when I do this Bible study, I ask people, why do you want to follow Jesus? And most people say something that is actually incredibly self-focused. They say something along the lines of, well, I want to be a better person, so okay, it's about self-improvement. It's about self. Jesus dying on the cross is about your self-improvement. Okay. Christianity is about self-improvement. Okay. Well, I want to be a better person. Or I've heard people say, well, I don't want to go to hell. This is the alternative. I just don't want to go to hell. I've heard people say, you know, I want to go to heaven. That's a pretty good reason. Me too. I've heard people say things like, you see this often when you study with married people, is they want to follow Jesus because they know that them following Jesus is going to impact their significant other. Right. So I've seen this often where it's like, the woman will be studying, but she's really studying for the man. She's like, he really needs this. I'm just here because he needs it. And I'm here for like his emotional support. And they're like completely self-righteous and delusional. Don't think that they need Christ, but their spouse does.
Oh! Yep. Talk about it.
And all those things, they're not necessarily bad. Right. Like you follow Jesus, yes. You do get the deposit of the Spirit, and your name is written in the book of life.
Come on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I think hell is something that is reasonably feared and should be feared. That's reasonable. We desire for God to do great things in our life. That's reasonable. I think that we all desire God to do great things in our life. But none of those things, I personally actually think, are a strong enough why. The why comes in 2 Corinthians chapter 5.
Come on, bro.
Come on, bro.
Come on, bro.
Come on, bro, preach.
2 Corinthians 5, verse 13. This may sound familiar. For if we're out of our mind, it is for God. If we're in our right mind, it is for you. For the love of Christ compels us, since we have reached this conclusion, that one died for all, and therefore all died. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for the one who died for them and was raised.
Wow.
This passage is one of my favorites because it shows in very few words the why behind why we follow Jesus.
Yeah.
This passage says that if we're out of our minds for Christ, and there are people who do perceive us to be out of our minds, and here's the thing, I agree with them. We are out of our minds.
Yeah.
It's actually been stated by psychologists and doctors that when people actually fall in love, they enter a state of psychosis.
Yeah.
Hey.
What does that mean? They're not actually thinking clearly.
Yeah.
This is why you've seen friends change up when they get a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It's like, you don't exist anymore. and you hit them up and they don't ever have time to hang out.
Wow.
And it's because they're just so engulfed with this relationship. I've seen people who literally in the pursuit of being in a relationship with somebody they've never met, they've only been talking to online. I've seen people literally move across the country to be in a relationship with somebody that they've only ever talked to online.
That's crazy.
People behave in crazy ways when they are in love.
Yeah.
It's only when you're in love with Jesus that it's perceived as crazy. And we are out of our minds for Christ. Why? It doesn't say because we just believe. It doesn't just say because we feel bad. It says because we have reached this conclusion. We are convinced that one died for all.
Come on, bro.
And therefore, those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died and was raised again. When you understand the magnitude of the love of Christ, it says that the love of Christ compels you.
Yeah.
And compel is actually a very strong word. Synonyms to compel are to push, to force, to urge. So when you understand the love of Jesus, it does push you. It does force you to use your life for his glory.
Come on, bro.
And for me, to be very honest with you guys, I don't follow Jesus because I'm scared of hell.
Right. Me neither.
It's not my motivation.
Right.
I don't even actually follow Jesus because I want to get to heaven, though I want to get to heaven. I don't follow Jesus because I want him to do great things through my life.
Yeah.
I follow Jesus primarily out of one reason. I understand the magnitude of his love.
Wow.
And it's through the understanding of the magnitude of his love that it literally leaves you without an option but to live for him. Please put your phone on Do Not Disturb. It leaves you without an option but to use your life for his glory. And this is saying that Christ, he gave his life for us. He gave his life for me. And as a result, what do? We live our life for him. When we meditate on what he did on the cross and the journey up to Golgotha, it leaves us with no option. And it's through understanding the cross that we understand the magnitude of the love of Jesus. So the title of our study is The Cross.
Come on, bro.
Go over to Matthew 26.
Yes, sir.
Come on, I know this, bro. Yes, sir.
And you know, I think that what's happened, unfortunately, through the course of time is the certain phrases and certain images have become so popular that they almost mean nothing to people. So, for example, people wear a cross. You ask them why they have a cross on. They say, "Oh, my grandma gave it to me."
Everybody else is doing it.
Or people, they have a scripture tattooed on them. Or they have a cross tattooed on them. And honestly, it means nothing but a fashion statement. They just thought, oh, this shape looks kind of cool. I prefer this over a triangle. I'll put a cross on me instead of a triangle. This seems cooler. And even certain phrases have become so normalized, like Jesus died for me. But it's stated so often that for the majority of people, that actually means nothing. That Jesus died for me. That Jesus died, and what the intention of this study to do is to actually help people understand what Jesus really went through.
Come on, Austin.
And when you understand what Jesus really went through, you have a catharsis in your heart to live for him. And so what we're going to do as we go through this study is I want you to really think about, if you were in Jesus' shoes going through what he was going through, how would you be feeling? What would you be thinking? How would you respond? Would you actually have gone through what he went through for yourself?
For me?
And I think that through the course of this study, we'll all reach the conclusion that not one of us would have went through what he went through. So let's pick up here in Matthew chapter 26.
Wow.
Come on, bro.
Come on, bro.
We're going to pick up in verse 31. We do have a little chunk of reading, so I'd like to share the reading. Let's read 31 to 46. Let's start off with Henry. 31 to 46. And you got to stand up.
I got you.
To 46.
Matthew 26:31. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you all will fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then, am I going to 46?
46.
My bad. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and his 2 sons Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed a 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned. The disciples said to him, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is delivered into the hand of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer."
Thank you.
Good job, Henry. Good job, Henry.
You know, it starts off with the denial of the apostles. And you can imagine as Jesus, he's just had the Last Supper. He's gathered his closest followers, the apostles, with him. And he tells them something quite shocking. He says that basically when the time comes and I need you the most, you're all going to abandon me. Wow. And Peter, he stands up and he says, absolutely not. All the rest of the apostles say the exact same thing. And Jesus says, you're going to disown me 3 times before the rooster even crows. Wow. And Peter says, I'll die with you if I need to. You're wrong. And all the apostles actually say the exact same thing. And I don't know about you guys, but when I really contemplate the fact of knowing that 2 things, I'm about to go through the most excruciating thing that anybody's ever gone through, and then simultaneously the people that I've poured my life into for the last 3 years, the people that I've taught, the people that I've fed, the people that I've walked with are going to abandon me when I need them the most, I'd feel so much. And I'm personally somebody, I'd rather feel physical pain than emotional pain. Amen. Like I'd rather break my arm than break my heart. I'd rather break my arm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you got to understand that Jesus was not just God, but he took upon flesh. He was man as well. So he would have been feeling every emotion that we would have felt. Yeah. He would have been feeling every ounce of pain that we would have felt, but even magnified. Because these are people that he poured his life into. Yeah. And so what happens is he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane and he grabs his 3 closest apostles, Peter, James, and John, and he tells them to pray for him. And we know that he often went to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray out what he was going through. And he prays, Father, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. So he's praying for an alternate way. He's not literally praying for God to take a cup from his hands. Right. What is he talking about? The cup of God's wrath. Christ knows what he's about to go through, but what does it show? He didn't have the heart to actually go through it. Wow. So he's praying, may this be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. What is he praying for? A heart of surrender. How hard is he praying? The Gospel of Luke tells us that as Jesus was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, he started literally sweating blood. And we know that this is actually something that is medically possible. What would actually happen when you're under immense amount of stress? The capillaries in your skin actually can burst. Yeah. And he would be sweating in the garden in the middle of the night. It's the Middle East. And so he would literally be sweating blood. I don't know about you guys. I've never been under so much stress I start sweating blood. Yeah. It's never taken place. He says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Jesus was not suicidal, but he did feel like he was actually going to die. Yeah. Wow. Because of the amount of stress that he was actually under. Wow. And to make matters worse, as he told his best friends to pray for him, they fallen asleep on him 3 times. He's prayed for 3 hours. They fall asleep on him 3 times. You can imagine being in a situation where you're praying deeply and you gather your 3 closest friends to be there for you. And as you're going through immense agony, you're sweating blood, your friends are scrolling on TikTok and goofing off. While you're over here just emotionally going through it. You feel like you're about to collapse because of the amount of anxiety that you have in your heart. And they're over here goofing off playing Call of Duty. Or they're taking a nap.
That's not me. I don't think
You feel let down. You feel hurt.
Yeah.
And as Jesus is praying, he gets his heart surrendered to what he needs to do. And he says, rise, here comes my betrayer. And we're going to see exactly who this is. Let's pick up in verse 47. And let's read 47 to verse 68. Let's go to Liz.
Come on, Liz.
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man, arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him. Jesus replied, do what you came for, friend. Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will not at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way? In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place, that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
Wow.
268.
Oh, 68, dang. I was dyslexic for a moment. Okay. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days. Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. You have said so, Jesus replied. But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, he has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? He is worthy of death, they answered. Then they spit in his face, struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, prophesy to us, Messiah, who hit you?
Thank you.
Come on, sis.
As Jesus says, rise, here comes my betrayer, Judas approaches him. And Judas is quite interesting because Judas actually is one of the apostles. And Judas betrays Jesus for money, for silver coins. Now this is notable to actually understand, is Judas was basically like the treasurer or the administrator of the group. He was actually in charge of taking care of the money, and the scriptures say that he was a lover of money, and what he would actually do over the course of time is he would take money and keep it for himself. And so when he's presented an opportunity to make more money, even at the cost of betraying Jesus, he takes it. And so Judas, he arranged a signal with the religious leaders who want Jesus dead, and he tells them, the man that I kiss is the one, go and arrest him. And what ends up happening, he goes to Jesus, he kisses him on the cheek, and what takes place is Jesus gets rushed by the soldiers. What ends up happening according to the Gospel of Luke, Peter pulls out a sword, cuts off the ear of the servant of the high priest, Jesus. He picks up the man's ear, puts it back on his head. The man who came to arrest him, he helps him out in the middle of his arrest.
Yeah.
And as Jesus is being arrested, he says, what are you doing? Don't you understand that I can call down 12 legions of angels to deliver me from this very moment? What is Jesus saying? I don't have to go through this.
Man.
Do you not know who I am?
Man.
I still have the power. And this is important to understand. Because as Jesus is praying in the garden, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. This actually shows that that was a possibility.
Yep.
Wow.
A lot of people think like Jesus had to go to the cross. No, he didn't.
No.
He could have called down the angels,
Yeah.
delivered himself from the situation,
Yeah.
wipe out all of humanity,
Man.
but he chose to do what's going to be beneficial for humanity instead of what was going to be
Man.
beneficial for us. And so Jesus, throughout everything we're going to read, you have to understand, he had the ability to free himself from everything that he's going through. And that changes everything.
Yeah.
When you recognize that this is not something that he had to go through, but something that he willingly allowed himself to go through.
Man.
Wow.
And so Jesus, he's arrested. All of the apostles flee from him. They all abandon him. And he's taken by the religious leaders. And they basically have this illegal secret trial. So during this time period, it actually functioned from a legal standpoint very similar to the way that ours did. You couldn't just hire false witnesses to lie and conspire against people, which is what they did. So they're breaking their own laws. These seemingly pious people are breaking their own laws and lying, sinning in order to condemn an innocent man.
Yeah.
So they're lying about Jesus. He's presented in front of these people who are saying things about him that he never said, that he never did, and he's sitting there silent.
Wow.
Just taking it all. And then they ask him this one thing, are you the Messiah? And he says, you have said so, it is as you say. And then when Jesus says this, they spit in his face.
Wow. Wow.
And they start striking him. And I don't know about you guys, but
Calling angels.
No, for real. Like,
one of the most, if not the most disrespectful thing, I would say one of the most disrespectful things you can do to somebody is spit in their face.
yeah.
Even more than punching them.
Disgusting.
It is sick. And consider this though. They were spitting in the face of God.
Wow.
Literally spitting in the face of God.
Wow.
Spitting in the face of the very one who came to redeem them.
Wow.
And Jesus took it, and I imagine Jesus so much better than us. For me, honestly, at this point, I would have called down the angels.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, forget them.
It's a wrap.
I imagine Jesus just wiping the saliva off of his face. And they beat him with clubs.
Wow.
And they start mocking him because the other gospels actually say that when they start beating him, they actually put a bandana around his head. That's why they say, who hit you? Because they're mocking him because he has a bandana around his head.
Wow.
So everything that they're doing is incredibly intentional to disrespect, to hurt, not just physically, but emotionally, Jesus. And I think with confidence that many of us, if not all of us at this point, would have called down the angels. How do I know that? We turn up for much littler than this.
That is so true, bro. Preach.
We get angry for much smaller things than this.
Definitely.
But Christ, this is even the most that he goes through. Let's keep reading.
Yeah. Come on, bro.
Verse 69 to chapter 27, verse 10. Let's go to Sebastian.
Sebastian.
Come on, Sebastian.
Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and the servant girl came to him. You also were with Jesus of Galilee, he said. But he denied it before them all. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Then he went out to the gateway where another servant girl saw him and said to the people, this fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. He denied it again with an oath, I don't know the man. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away. Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, I don't know the man. Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the words Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crowed, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and elders of the people made their plans how to have Jesus executed. So they bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw what Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. I have sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is that to us? They replied. That's your responsibility. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priest picked up the coins and said, it is against the law to put this into the treasury since it is blood money. So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why it has been called the field of blood to this day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took the 30 pieces of silver, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field as the Lord commanded.
Thank you, bro. You know what the scripture shows is that as Jesus is actually going through all of this, Peter, as well as John actually, they're both actually observing all of this from across the temple. So as Jesus is being spat in his face, as Jesus is being falsely accused, as Jesus is being disrespected, they're watching all of it from a distance. And then you have these servant girls, they go to Peter, and they're like, wait a second. You were with that guy. You're one of his disciples. Right. And it's because of his accent that actually gives him away. So in a very similar sense, depending on where you go in America, they're speaking English, but the accent in a very real way can kind of show you where they're from.
Right. Mm-hmm.
People from the South sound very different from people who are on the Northeast Coast, sound from very different people from people who are on the West Coast.
Hawaii.
And so these were people who had a very distinct accent, and his accent gave him away. But as soon as he's pressed, he says, I do not know that guy.
Wow.
And he denies him 3 times. And what ends up happening is the Gospel of Luke says that the 3rd time that Peter denied Jesus, he stared at him straight in his eyes from across the temple. Straight in his eyes. And it was then at that moment that he went back, he ran away, and he cried because of the fact that he denied Jesus.
Right.
And this is the thing that's just so wild is John chapter 1 says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is the closest thing in a material standpoint that we have. It's the Word of God.
Yeah.
And you got to understand is when we read God's Word, we look at Christ, and we go and we sin, we do the same thing that Peter did.
Wow.
Is we stare at Christ and we turn our back on him.
Wow.
And we say, I do not know that man.
Wow.
Not by our words, but by our actions.
Yeah.
And Peter, he realizes the magnitude of what he does and he weeps bitterly. And Judas, on the other hand, what you find is Judas, he's filled with guilt and remorse as well. But Judas, he goes to the religious leaders and he tries to give them back the money. Because it's like, I betrayed an innocent man, and I don't necessarily think that Judas knew the magnitude of what they were going to try to do to Jesus, that they were going to try to kill him.
Yeah.
And so when he actually recognizes that they are trying to kill him, he's like, I've betrayed an innocent man. And they're like, that's between you and God. You better figure it out. That is not on us. And so what Judas does is he throws the money and he goes out and he hangs himself. Peter and Judas are contrasting between godly sorrow and worldly sorrow.
Yeah.
And this is the reason. Both of them cried. Both of them shed tears. Both of them were emotional. But their response to what they did was completely different.
Wow.
Peter, he ends up getting restored and he uses the remainder of his life to bring glory to God. Judas, out of self-pity, out of woe is me, out of self-condemnation, he does not go back to Christ, but he takes his own life. And just because you may cry does not mean that you have godly sorrow. Judas cried.
Yeah.
But Judas did not have the humility and the love for Christ to actually go back to Christ.
Yeah. Dang.
And I think that many people would say Judas got what he deserved. How dare he betray the Lord? Do you not understand this is a man that Jesus loved? Jesus, even when Judas kissed him on the cheek and betrayed him, said, friend, do what you came for. And I don't know about you guys, but losing anybody to suicide is a tragic thing. Despite what they've done, despite who they were, it's a horrible thing. And it's the same way with Judas. This is a man who was a part of Christ's ministry, a man who Jesus poured his life into. And this is a man that Jesus actually trusted enough to give the responsibility of being the treasurer of the group. I don't know about you, but I'm not giving somebody access to my finances who I don't actually trust.
Right.
And so this is a man who was actually incredibly significant to Christ. And he loses a friend.
Wow.
Not just a follower, but he loses a friend. Let's keep reading. Verse 11. And let's read 11 to 31. Let's go over to Anthony. 11 to 31.
It says, meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor. And the governor asked him, are you the king of the Jews? You have said so, he replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you? But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. Now it was the governor's custom at the festival to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At that time, they had a well-known prisoner whose name was Jesus Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, which one do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who was called the Messiah? For he knew it was out of self-interest that they had handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him this message. Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Pilate and to have Jesus executed. Which of the two do you want me to release to you? Asked the governor. Barabbas answered. What shall I do then? For Jesus, who is called the Messiah, Pilate asked. They all answered, crucify him. Why? What crime has he committed? Asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, crucify him. When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. I am innocent of this man's blood, he said. It is your responsibility. All the people answered, his blood is on us and on our children. Then he released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They had stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked. Hail the King of the Jews, they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him.
Thanks, bro. So the Jewish religious leaders, they've already deemed Jesus worthy of death. Now, the problem for them is they don't actually have the legal right to execute people.
Right.
There were certain things that, because they were under Roman occupancy, the Jewish leaders could not do without the authority of the Romans. And one of those things was actually execute capital punishment.
Right.
So in order to have Jesus executed, they bring Jesus to the Roman governor Pilate. And Pilate is actually pretty interesting because his wife goes to him and says, have nothing to do with that innocent man. It is very clear to Pilate, and it's very clear to Pilate's wife that Jesus is innocent.
Yeah.
But the thought-provoking thing is, he still did not let Jesus go free, though. So this is a man who recognizes that Jesus is innocent. You have these Jewish religious leaders that are plotting against Christ. They just hate him. But Pilate still allows him to be killed. And it begs the question, why? If he knows that he's innocent. It is because he's fearful of the crowds.
Yeah.
He's fearful of how people are going to respond. He's fearful of what people are going to do if he does not do what they want, but instead does what is right.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is we live in a time period where I think this is just natural human tendency, is the desire to please people is strong.
Yeah.
Even when we know that in pleasing people, we are going to displease God.
Yeah.
Most would still rather please people.
Yeah.
And Pilate here, he allowed Jesus to die for one reason. He was consumed with people pleasing.
Yeah.
He was consumed with what people thought. He was consumed with the reactions that people were going to have. And he was actually probably fearful for his own life. Because if you were a Roman governor and you were deemed unable to actually keep peace in the town that you were supposed to govern, they would just kill you and replace you. So this is a man who's probably thinking, if I don't do what these people want, they're going to cause a riot, and that is going to lead to me being killed by the Roman emperor. And that's not going to happen. And so what he ends up doing is he does what he already knows is wrong. He allows an innocent man, Jesus Christ, to be killed. But he goes about it in a really sly way. He gives the crowd an option to release either Jesus, who's never sinned, or Barabbas, who's a notorious criminal, and he was an insurrectionist, which is like a riot starter, and a murderer. So he grabs Jesus, innocent man, and intentionally grabs the worst criminal that he can grab. And puts them both in front of the people, probably thinking that they're going to choose to release Jesus. And they're like, release Barabbas. And he's probably shocked. Wait, what? What do you want me to do with Jesus then? They say, crucify him. Kill that guy. And you have to understand how insane this is. This would be the equivalent of putting like Liz in front of a crowd and putting like some serial killer in front of the crowd. And you're given an option, hey, who are we going to release? Liz or a serial killer? Release the serial killer. What do you want us to do with Liz? Crucify her. You lose all faith in humanity. You lose all faith in humanity. And this is what Jesus is going through. And what Pilate does is before actually having him crucified, he actually has him flogged. Now this is interesting too, and I think that this is another reason that shows that Pilate probably did not actually want to crucify Jesus. And this is the reason. Being flogged and being crucified were not unique things. This happened to a plethora of people during this time period. But being flogged and crucified, unheard of. Unheard of. And this is the reason. Flogging and crucifixion, the intention of them both were to do two separate things. Flogging was intended to put somebody through as much physical pain as possible without actually killing them. Crucifixion was to allow somebody to go through as much physical pain as possible for a prolonged period of time, but ultimately ending in their death. So people who got flogged generally were allowed to live after. And so what they would do is they would strip you of your clothing, and they would take what's called a flagellum, which is kind of like a whip, but it's got multiple strands at the end. And on the end of these strands, they'd have things like hooks or nails, anything that was sharp enough to rip the flesh off of your body. And so they stripped Jesus of his clothing and they flog him over and over and over. And it is thought that we actually have the cloth that Jesus was wrapped in when he was actually put in the tomb. It's called the Shroud of Turin. And what people have actually done is they have assessed the shroud and done imagery of what the person would have looked like who was in the shroud after this flogging and after this crucifixion. And you can see the marks. It's not just on this person's back. I personally actually think that it was Jesus in the shroud. But there was marks all over this person's back, all over their front, all over their legs, all over their arms, lacerated everywhere. Ripped. Body is in ribbons. And this is what they would have done to Jesus. And that is actually what Jesus looked like when Pilate put Jesus before the crowd. Is beat up. Because he probably thought that them seeing Jesus beat up like that would have been enough to quench their bloodlust. And to say, okay, he's had enough.
Wow.
And it's even still when seeing Jesus like that they say crucify him.
Wow.
And so they lead Jesus away to the praetorium. And what they do is now they make a mockery out of Jesus because he claimed to be the king of the Jews. So they say a king, he needs a crown. And this wouldn't actually have been the type of crown that is typically depicted in movies and stuff. This actually would have been more similar to like a baseball cap.
Yep.
It would have actually surrounded the entirety of your head, not just the outside.
Wow.
And so this crown of thorns, they would have put on Jesus' head, they would have beat it in with a club. And then they say, whoa, a king needs a staff. They give him a staff. A king needs a robe. They put a robe on him. And this is not an enjoyable thing. Jesus has wounds open all over his body. I don't know about you guys, but I've had wounds that I put a Band-Aid on and it's been on there for 5 minutes and then it's stuck.
Yeah.
And then you have to rip it open and it is just reopened everything that was just there. When I was actually in high school, I got a really, really bad burn on my back and I put a gauze on it and then I sweat because I was playing football and it completely stuck to it. And it was like a burn that was like this big. And so this gauze covered the whole thing, and I tried to rip it off, but it was completely stuck. I put water on it to try to soak it so that it would like come off easy. There was no way. I just had to rip the whole thing off and reopen the wound. And that's what happened to all of Jesus's body.
Yep.
And then they lead him away to be crucified. Let's pick up in verse. Actually, then they mock him, they spit in his face some more, and then they lead him to be crucified. Verse 32 to verse 44. Let's have Andres read that.
And it reads, as they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but before tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots. And sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head they placed a written charge against him, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross, if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he cannot save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now, if he wants him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him.
Thank you, bro. So they put Jesus on the path to Golgotha. And what they do is they would force you to carry your cross. And they would force you to carry not the entirety of it, but the horizontal beam. And this would be somewhere around 100 pounds. But Jesus is in a place physically where he does not actually have the bandwidth and the physical ability to carry the cross. So they grab a man named Simon and they force him to carry the cross. And you got to understand that carrying a cross was like mental torture.
Yeah.
It would be the equivalent if somebody took you to the middle of the desert, they gave you a shovel and they said, "Start digging."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You're digging your own grave. And in the same way, they're forcing Jesus to carry his cross. Forcing him to carry the very thing that they're going to kill him on. And so they force Jesus to carry the cross, they crucify him, and crucifixion was different than flogging because crucifixion would end in death, but they try to put you through as much pain as physically possible for as long as possible before actually killing you. So what they do is they prop your arms up like this, and they put nails in your hands, but not right here, because you just slip through. What they'd actually do is they put nails right here, which anatomically still actually is the hands, and it's way more painful. They cross your legs, and they'd put nails through your feet, and the way they'd have you propped up on the cross, it was actually difficult to breathe.
Yep.
If you wanted to inhale, you have to pull yourself up on your wrist. If you wanted to exhale, you have to put the pressure back down on your feet.
Man.
And so the entire time that you're up there, you're not just fighting to breathe, but you're going from pain to here, to here, to here, to here, over and over and over. And that's just for the normal person who's being crucified. Jesus had just gotten flogged.
Man.
His body is all open. He's going up and down this cross.
Oh my goodness.
He's being disrespected by people who are right in front of him, telling them to come down from the cross. He's being disrespected by people who are on crosses themselves.
Yeah.
And Jesus, he goes through the cross. Let's pick up in verse 45. Actually, something notable. As he's on the cross, they give him wine mixed with gall to drink, but he chooses to spit it out. Now, they were kind of doing Jesus a solid, and the wine mixed with gall was like a numbing agent. And so Jesus tastes it, and he spits it out. Why? He could have numbed the pain that he was going through, but he chose to take it all.
Come on.
Why? I believe is because it shows that you can endure unrighteous suffering righteously. You can endure unrighteous suffering. He's going through the most unrighteous suffering possible.
Wow.
And he chose to fill it all.
That is awesome.
In the same way, Job 36:21 says, beware of turning to sin, which you seem to prefer to affliction.
Yeah.
Why? Because what's the natural tendency of people is when we feel affliction, when we feel pain, when we feel discomfort, what do most people do? Go to sin to alleviate themselves of their pain.
Yeah.
People feel discomfort, people feel pain, they go to pornography.
Yeah.
People feel pain, people feel discomfort, they go to an ungodly relationship.
Yep.
People feel pain, people feel discomfort, they go to a drug. People feel pain, people feel discomfort, they go to drink. People feel pain, people feel discomfort, they go to bitterness. All these things are just to numb what God is doing in our life. And Jesus showed you don't have to drink the gall. And you can righteously go through that which you go through.
Yeah.
45, let's read verse 45 to verse 51. Let's have a sister read. Let's have Jim read.
Come on, Jen. 45 plus 1.
45 to 51.
From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing there heard this, they said, he's calling Elijah. Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him. And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split.
Thank you. So as Jesus is on the cross, it says from 12 until 3 in the afternoon, darkness comes over the land. We're going to see that this is not actually random. But he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Forsaken means to be abandoned. And it's kind of interesting because it sounds absurd that Jesus would say, why have you abandoned me? But if Jesus is not correct, then it means that he's wrong. And God cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
So is Jesus mistaken as he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? No. He's crying this out because it actually happened.
Yeah.
Why do we know that? Why did Jesus die? For our sin. What separates man from God? Sin. So as Jesus is on the cross, he is facing the punishment of our sin, which is separation from God, and he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Wow.
This is why it's dark over the land. From 12 to 3. What does sin do? Put you in darkness.
Wow.
The darkness is a physical manifestation of what Jesus is actually going through spiritually.
Wow.
So it's dark because he's in spiritual darkness, and he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And this shows something that is so profound. As Jesus is going through emotional suffering, as Jesus is going through physical suffering, he's actually basically silent the whole time. What was it that actually brought him the most amount of suffering? The spiritual ramifications. Not being connected to the Father. And what I've realized for us is so often we feel pain emotionally and we feel pain physically so much more than we feel pain spiritually.
Wow.
And Jesus, what actually caused him the most amount of pain was being separate from God.
Wow.
Was being separate from God. More than being flogged, more than being crucified. And that's what we have to understand, the heart that we need to have when we are in sin.
Yeah.
Is that separation.
Wow, bro.
And the letting down of God is actually what should hurt us so much more
Great
than
point.
anything physically that can happen to you.
Great point.
Or anything emotionally that can happen to you is being in a place where you are hurting God and separating your relationship from God.
Come on, Austin.
And this is something that's so sad is, I've seen so many people cry over the sin that they have to give up to follow Christ.
Oh my goodness.
I've seen grown men break down and cry like babies. I'm not even kidding. Stefano, yeah. I've seen grown men break down and cry like children over the fact that they have to give up their sin. I've seen very few people ever cry over the fact that Jesus died for them.
That's so true.
I've seen person after person after person after person cry over their sin.
Yeah.
And not because they're broken over their sin, but because they're broken because they need to give it up. And those same people don't ever cry over the fact that Christ took their place on the cross.
Keep going, bro.
Don't ever cry over the fact that Jesus came down with the purpose of being the lamb that will be slain for us. And it says that he gives up his spirit. Go to Isaiah 53. This is a passage that is about 750 years before Christ would ever come down from heaven. But it's a prophecy about what Jesus would actually do on behalf of humanity. And to me, I think it's the most powerful
Come on, Austin.
about Christ. Isaiah 53 verse 4 says, "Yet he himself bore our sicknesses and he carried our pains. But we in turn regarded him stricken, struck down by God and afflicted. But he was pierced because of our rebellion, crushed because of our iniquities. Punishment for our peace was on him, and we are all healed by his wounds. We all went astray like sheep. We have turned to our own way, and the Lord has punished him for the iniquity of us all." For me, I understand that Jesus is the Savior of the world and Christ died for all of humanity, but if you only live with the mentality that Jesus died for us, you never take ownership of the fact that Jesus died for me. Yes, Jesus died for the person next to you, but you got to understand that even if you were the only person who ever sinned, the only person on the earth, Jesus still would have went through what he went through if it meant only that you would be saved. That's the magnitude of the love of Christ. And I internalize all that what Jesus went through, and I'm not pointing my finger at Jericho like he died for you too, bro. I'm not pointing my finger at Gustavo. He died for you, bro. I'm not pointing my finger at Julia. He died for you too. Like Jesus went through this because of me. Jesus laid down his life on the cross because of me, and everything that I deserve and everything that we deserve is everything that he took on his shoulders so that we don't have to go through it. And when you understand that, it is impossible to not live for him. When you understand that, it is impossible to go back to the sin that he laid his life down so that you would be freed from. When you understand that, it is impossible to look back to the world. When you understand that, it is impossible to say, this is too hard, this is too difficult, my life is too tragic. I don't know about you, I've never been flogged, I never died on the cross, and I never died for people who have never cared that I died for them. Jesus did not just die for those who would respond 2,000 years later. Jesus even died for those who would have still lived a wicked, heinous, disgusting life, knowing that he died for them. He died for them too.
Come on,
And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I would never let my children go through that.
Facts, bro.
Never. I would never let Aubrey go through that, what Jesus went through. For people, I would never let Ezra go through that. I wouldn't let them go through that for me.
Wow, bro.
But Jesus went through it all.
Come on, bro.
Out of his love.
Yeah.
And what he desires is that we live our life as a response to his love.
Wow.
Not out of fear. Not for the benefits. But because of the depth of understanding of his love. And a desire to try to fulfill, which Romans 13 says there's a debt that will never be filled. And it's the debt of love.
Wow.
And there's a lot of debts that can be filled. If you're in debt, it can be forgiven. It can be forgiven by the government. It can be forgiven by a lot of different things. But there's a unpayable debt that we all owe to Christ. And it's our love. It's our life. And that's what the intention of this study is to do, is to help people understand the magnitude of his love. So that we understand that following him is worth it. For nothing else, if only because of the fact that he loved us first. So what I want to do before we close out this study is we're going to show a video that I think does a great job at breaking down everything that Jesus went through. If we could play the video. And then we're going to have a song, and we're going to close out the night.
Yeah.
Credere non posso. Resistenza sua incredibile. Forza nel placet, no? Buttate flagello.
Cum sclavice?
No. Cansa.
Oltre nobis quod verbum.
Prova e studia.
Quale?
Come so farlo?
Gusta! Gusta!
Qui facile.
Scrivimento al magna!
Non Fortius! Vedete Non è un castigare usque ad mortem. Offerte. Peter! Offertum!
Evertite tignum stulti. Super pacem sua.
Rigite cruce!
Yo.